The epic battlefield 0025 opens the contest of Kremlin. There are two leagues join the final battle. Those are League A, which contains Alliance UN, TO1, HBR, NVX, and League B that constitutes a VNF, Fury, WTF, Mass. Let's take a temporary conclusion for the battlefield progression until now. In the outer circle, UN and TO1 suppress VNF and Fury in Western Frontline, but Mass and WTF withhold HBR and NVX during the Eastern Frontline. Later, League A and League B start the extraordinary and intensive attack from both sides, and battlefield is full of burning buildings and weapons. League A take a slight advantage in occupied one more entrance to the middle circle. League A build up a distinct advance after an unprecedented but failed attack from Mass that happened before the middle circle opened. When League A get into the middle circle, the Alliance FRUI lost its entrance to the middle circle. Alliance UN and TO1 from League A both take Alliance VNF out of the middle circle. Thus, League B can only have northeast corner for the final core circle contest, which were fully occupied by all the four alliances in League B. The final battle time is quite short, as only 2 hours long. The League A sweep out all the League B military forces. In a bird view, Battlefield 0025 is the most balanced battlefield. Both League A and League B hold different time zone and take whole advantages in their own time zone. The battle reflects a character from Conquest Seasonal Battle. That is the persistency in Battlefield, and the control to keynote on map. In the final stage, both sides have been tired for the battle in both fight frequency and coordination. Most excellent part of fight performance appears in the outer circle. That's the point to improve for Conquest Seasonal Battle. NVX held the ground under the great pressure from all Mass, HBR and WTF's aggression in various important battlefields and choke points many times. VNF territory is kept well. TO1 and Union build and make advancements slowly and steadily. FRUI also tried to make its best performance. Mass showed strong and powerful shock attacks. Let's introduce the R5 Dr. X, who comes from Alliance TO1 and Server 14, to conclude some experiences in the battlefield. What's your experience in this Moscow event?
So I think at the beginning, most of our opponents has comment say how this is an unbalanced fight, even if 4 against 4, that is so different in power. But if you just check in the math, right, the differences between our coalitions versus theirs, it's within like 7%, 8% in power. But then can consider people's active time, and this is the vacation season for most of the EU and American players. They're just not as active as those heavy Asian-based alliances, such as Mass is most Chinese, VNF is most Vietnamese. So, and then during the first couple of days of the fight, we noticed that very obviously, Mass and VNF are super active in their time zone, which you can see TO1 and VNF even has a huge power differences. We still dominate over each own time zones for a couple of runs. And on the other battleground, on the other side, Mass is dominating, fighting with NVX and HBR because they're more active in their time zone. And most NVX and HBR, like Europe, US players, are not that active due to the vacation season. So our coalition has established the main big picture how to fight this Moscow is the NVX and HBR holding their line, and the TO1 UN have been more aggressive, try to get in more from our side of the map. So that works very well. I think during the first stage, we established 2 forts advantages over them. So that 2 forts bring us extra buff. Went to the inner circle. Those extra buff would exchange to the benefit of conquer more land against them. So literally taking another fort from them in the inner circle, which we secured 95% of the blockhouse. Then that makes the final circle war very easy. The circle inside the Kremlin war very easy because we starting by controlling 75 of the blockhouse and so easy to cover all the lands in the center of the Kremlin. I think this is generally win by strategy. We do have a clear strategy established at the beginning, and we know the goal of the fight, right? For every fight, what's the objective, what's the expectations. We always following this kind of thought process. Every fight, there's a reason, right? We don't just farming kills for fight. We want to play this game and be using more like a big picture and a strategy. That's how we ended up controlling the whole center of the Moscow for this map.
Who are the most impressive players from the opponent in your mind?
This Moscow is kind of interesting timing because Lilith just released the advanced beta research or advanced combat research. So within a short period of time, only few players can max out a lot of stuff like Air Force and tanks and heavy or archery, all this kind of stuff. Generally, pay-to-win players such as 11, Marshall, King Kong, ADVH, by spending a lot of money, they can finally max out, like for example, Air Force research. And in this version, the Liberty Bomber is super OP, overpowered, in a land with really like a narrowing opening. So that because the slow movement of the army groups, the archery army groups, the Liberty Bomber can causing a huge damage with the new officer called Aero Kataro. That's why those big whale players with the super heavy bomber and fighters make a lot of impressions on me. So I feel like this is one of Tier 1's weakness. We don't have the super whales with all those max out units. But I mean, time can fix everything, right? For during the next time front, our like medium whales, we are all maxed out, those researchers. Now the difference is they just become the war power. They generate advanced war power from the normal whale to the super whale.
Let's see the battle Excel sheet, which was made by Casio from Alliance UN in Server 14.
So here's the data. The data is very simple to get. Thanks for the Casio from UN from Server 14 to preparing this data. The data just generally recording the delta kill ratio from your alliance total kill numbers, and that's being updated every day. So there's a couple of interesting data points you want to look at it. The first one is on the May 7th, which is mainly look at TO1 versus the WNF. That's the time WNF blocked the TO1 on a really narrow villages. TO1 have to trade a lot of unit to be able to kick out that blockage. So that's the one. Another one that's interesting, it's on the May 26th. That's arms factory war between NVX plus UN versus the Fury from MAS. From the data, you can see even MAS successfully hold their arms factory, but they losing 5 times more unit than the UN and NVX. I think that's another reason they cannot keep the activity level high because most of the people are run out of reserves. And the last data point is the last one, that's which is a Kremlin fight, center fight. As you can see, TO1 UN was against the VNF and the WTF. The KD ratio is generally 2-to-1, which we had a significant advantages over them by all the buffs and the player strategy, all this kind of stuff. And from other side, MAS plus Fury against HBR plus NVX, they hold a pretty much 1-to-1 KD ratio, which is very similar. MAS is pretty powerful, but HBR has more buff. So you can see they have a pretty much 1-to-1 ratio. So data is a really good way to help you understand what is the real better kill death ratio are. Not as lots of people thinking, oh, they're losing a lot of units because blah, blah, blah. I mean, from the whole data picture per se, TO1, UN, HBR, NVX still overplay like VNF, Fury, MAS, WTF by 10%. And from each side, TO1 really stands out by producing a lot of kills. And on the other side, MAS produce a lot of kills. However, MAS also produce a lot of death. But that's the data people usually don't want to talk about.
Thank you very much for the presentation from Dr. X. Now let us enjoy some the most dramatic point in the battlefield. Superpower rock launcher. The speedy demolition target on bases, that is quick if rocket launcher not being attached. Bridge battle. Now, there is no way to go across the bridge when non-destructible mining truck blocked. As you can see, rocket launcher, bomber and fighter are the key persons in the bridge battle now. Don't get into the base groups. Dozens of bombers almost arrive at the battlefield at the same time, which dominate that night. the air-ground integration battlefield. Once the base was destroyed, and units had been killed, then use other base to occupy that position.